Hello everyone, and thank you very much for watching. This is me, Mr. P, and in this self-hosting lab series video, I will show you how to run Flatcar Container Linux OS inside your Proxmox server. So let's begin. First of all, what is Flatcar Container Linux OS? It is an open source and community powered OS that is tailored for one specific job, and that is running Docker containers the most efficient way. It is very scalable, so it can run on not one node, it can run on a lot of nodes, it's scalable. And why you should consider using that, not only in your home lab, but let's say in your office, in a production, inside your company. The Flatcar Container Linux OS have a couple of very useful features. First of all, it comes with just bare minimum tools required to run Docker container. There is nothing extra installed, so the footprint of this OS is quite small. Second, this OS is immutable. In other words, means that the file system, the key file system and directories are read-only. So you can't just one day decide to install htop or Samba server. Everything what you want this OS to contain, you need to specify during the ignition file setup process, and I will show you that in a second. Once you set everything up, you can just 2 days later decide, oh, I actually want to run a Pi-hole inside there, or let's say install Tailscale, or install Samba server, or mount a Samba drive. Once the ignition file has been used and at the initial setup, at the first boot process, everything gets set up, and after that it becomes read-only, it becomes locked. You can't just go install because apt package manager is not there. There is no package manager installed. And next, the last thing is auto updates. The system will go and check for updates every hour or so. By default is at 1 hour. You can change that. And once the updates are detected, it will install the updates on the second location. During the Flatcar Container Linux OS installation process, it will install in 2 separate locations on one drive. And then you can switch between which one you want to run. If, for example, let's say you're running the OS from a location A, updates gets installed in location B, you can switch from location A to location B just by restarting the system. It will automatically switch. And let's say for some reason the updates doesn't work as supposed to, there is some issues with the updates, you can easily restart the system and go back to a location A and just carry on until the Flatcar OS the developers and the maintainers will fix that update, and then basically an hour later it will go and do an update, and this basically and all starts again. So how to get Linux or Flatcar Container Linux OS, I'm just gonna call Flatcar from now on. So how to get Flatcar installed or running inside your Proxmox server. Step 1, obviously you need an ISO file. You will find the link to this page in the description below, just below the like button. So first of all, get yourself the ISO file of a Flatcar Container Linux OS. To do that, you just click on this button. Page should look exactly like you're seeing right now by the time you're watching this video, but if anything changes, just look for the download stable ISO file and right click on the link on this button and choose copy link address. I copied the link behind that button. We'll go into my Proxmox cluster. As you can see under NAS, I have the NAS is where I'm storing my ISO files. As you can see, Flatcar production ISO file already here. If you already don't have that, just click on the button, download from URL, paste the link that you just copied from that page and press the button query URL. Proxmox will go and check this link, will detect that this link will provide this file. You can change the file name if you want. And I'll press download, and I will get an error because ISO file already exists. In your case, if you don't have Flatcar ISO file already downloaded, you just go and download this way. So right now I have this ISO file running or downloaded into my Proxmox cluster. Next thing, what I need to do is start setting up the VM. I will click on create VM. I'll leave it Blade and I'll name this VM Flatcar Demo. Under OS, what I will do, I will select the Flatcar ISO file. This is the one I want to use. Under systems, everything stays as it is by default. Under disks, where do you want the Flatcar system to be, into how big the drive you want and where the location is. Please note that Flatcar allows easily to expand the drive. like for example LXC containers does inside the Proxmox. For some of you that don't know, what I'm trying to say here is that LXC containers allows you to expand the drives automatically just by going into any LXC container and just doing the expand. So for example, I'm going to choose my FileZilla. I click on the resources. This is LXC container. I just go and say resize from 8 to 10 gigabytes, for example, and system automatically will go and resize that. Similar, this is what Flatcar does. If you're running, for example, Ubuntu server and you want to expand the drive, there is a little bit of a command line tinkering around to make that running inside the Ubuntu. And if you type something incorrectly, there is a chance that you will break your Ubuntu server OS. With Flatcar, you do the same as on LXC containers. You just select the drive, do resize, enter the value, how many gigabytes you want to add. From 8, let's say I want to add to extra 2. That will make that to be 10, and the system automatically detects that the drive increased, and it will start using all the 100% of the drive. This is exactly how Flatcar will do. So let's go back here. Let's type Flatcar demo. Like I said, under OS, we're going to use Flatcar. System stays as it is. Everything stays like it is. So many cores, I will say I will give 4 cores, and I will give 4 gigabytes of RAM. Network, everything stays as it is. Under confirmation, yep, everything is fine. I will press finish. So right now, Proxmox is creating this virtual machine for me. So let's give a second or so for this to finish. That's it, that is done. I will click on the Flatcar demo under console. I will press start now. So right now the YAM will start. After around 1 minute of wait time, the live CD of Flatcar booted. As you can see, I'm right now inside the CLI for the core OS, or Flatcar OS. First thing what I need to do is to change the password of this user. To do that, I type passwd core, and I need to provide a new password. I need to actually run this under sudo. So sudo space passwd space core, new password, something simple. And right now the password changed for core user. I will open SSH client, and actually at first I need to find out the IP address by typing IP space A, an IP address ending with 147. So right now SSH core, and I need to go into 147. Accept the fingerprint, provide the password that I just changed, and here we go. I am inside the Flatcar OS. So how to get Flatcar OS installed inside the drive that we created for this virtual machine? In my case, it is 32 gigabytes drive. How to do that? First of all, we need to find out exactly where the drive is located. I will write lsblk, and I can see there is a drive, it's 32 gigabytes under SDA. Full path to this drive will look like this, /dev/SDA. So keep that in mind. Next thing what I need to do is to create a YAML file. The Flatcar OS initial setup is being done by using ignition file ending with IGN, but to write ignition file is a bit complicated. So there is a easier way to set this up is by creating the YAML file first, and then using the program called Butane that will convert that YAML file into ignition file for us. So first of all, we need to go and create a YAML file. Sadly, there is no nano inside the system. As I type nano, as you can see, it's not found. So we're going to have to deal with vim. So I'm going to write vim, V-I-M, space, and write flatcar.yaml. You can name this file whatever you like. I'm just going to call this Flatcar YAML. And in this file, right now, we need to write instructions for Flatcar ignition. Like I said, first of all, we're going to write the YAML file, then we're going to use Butane to convert into ignition file. So in here, we need to start typing. To start typing inside the vim via vim, you need to press I. If you press I on a keyboard, you're going to see this insert showing up bottom left-hand corner. That means that right now file is not read-only. Right now you can enter data into this file. First line will say variant, and we're going to use Flatcar as a variant. Next, which version we're going to use? We're going to use 1.0.0, and what we want to create, what instructions we want to give to a Flatcar ignition process at the initial setup. what we want to create a user. So first of all, we need to specify that we're going to create a user with a password. And then we're going to do 1, 2, 2 spaces and write users like that. Enter. 1, 2, 1, 2, 4 spaces, dash name. Which name, what kind of name we're going to give to this user? I'm just going to leave as a default core. And then again, we're going to press enter and go all the way just below the N letter and type password underscore hash like that. And in here, we need to paste our hash password, hash of our password. So we're going to leave like this for now. Everything looks okay. We have variant, we have version, we have password, users, what kind of username we're going to have, and the hash. To save the file, first of all, I need to press escape. So insert disappears. And now I need to press shift colon. At the bottom left, as you can see, colon showed up, and we'll give instructions to write this file, then quit. Exclamation means no confirmation needed. You just write and quit the file. Press enter. So file right now is being written. As you can see, it shows here. And now I'm going to say cat this content, output the content of this file, and I can see everything looks okay. So now we need to create a hash of our password. To do that, I need to type mkpasswd space. What kind of method we're going to use? We're going to use method SHA-512. And then what kind of password? The password needs to be entered between the quotes. So I'm just going to say password. You choose whatever password you want. And if I press enter, the hash will be output on the screen, as you can see like that. But I don't want that. I don't want to copy and then paste into a file. To make my life easier, I'm just going to bring back that and going to say append output into a file called flatcar.yaml. Enter. And now if I'm going to run vim space flatcar.yaml, I see the hash being added at the bottom of the file. So to get this line just after the hash colon, I will go all the way to this line, press I to insert. Now I can interact with this file, colon, delete, delete, colon. Here we go. So this looks okay to me. I just want to double check if it's one space here, like that. No, that one space is fine. That's it. Hash is being added. I will press escape, shift, colon, WQ, exclamation mark. Write and quit with no confirmation, enter. And now if I'm going to cat that file out, I do see a variant, version, I do see the password WD, users, I have a name, and I have password hash. So right now we have the YAML file created. How we're going to create ignition file out of this file? To create ignition file, we will use a program called Butane, and you can't install anything here. There is no apt manager, so you can't just go and apt install Butane. We will go and wget the Butane from the internet, and we will create that file as executable in the current location. My current location is home core, so I'm just going to paste that command. By the way, you'll find this command in the description just below the like button for you to easier copy and paste. And I will wget, write this file output into file Butane. This is the source, and once you've done that, change the file into executable. Enter. So all that happened, and now for list the content, I do have a Butane here. So to convert the Flatcar YAML file into Butane, into ignition file, sorry, we need to write ./butane, like that. What file we will use? We're going to use Flatcar YAML, and we will convert that into Flatcar IGN. Enter. That's it. Flatcar IGN is converted. So let's quickly check. Content. I can see Flatcar ignition file and Flatcar YAML file. If I'll output Flatcar ignition file, as you can see, it's all in one JSON format. And to write all this is going to be a bit tedious. Obviously you can go and straight away write using Vim JSON file, but YAML file is a bit, I think, more human readable and understandable what's happening. But you're more than welcome to go and straight away write into a JSON file. So I have that one file set up. So right now we can go and install the Flatcar OS into our drive. So first of all, let's double check if it's still SDA. I can see 32 gigabytes under SDA. So to install this system, I need to write Flatcar install. space -d. D is destination, stands for destination. Destination is going to be dev sda. And we're going to use what file? So -i specifies that we're going to use a file called Flatcar IGN. If I press enter, it will complain because it's not a root. But if you write with the root, you won't be able to do the command suggestions, where if I write without the root, as you can see, it auto completes the commands for me. So first of all, write a command without the root, and then you can always add sudo at the front. So just to double check, we're going to use sudo to flatcar install to this destination using this ignition file. And I will press enter. And right now the process will start, and the Flatcar live CD will be used. The files inside the Flatcar ISO file will be used to get everything set up. And this process is where you initializing the Flatcar OS. After this, once it's done, and I hope it's successfully done with no errors, once that is done, the system becomes immutable, and I can't change anything inside that system. I can't just go and install new packages and nothing. Everything what I want to run in this system will have to be done via Docker containers. So I'll give a minute or so for this to finish, and I'll come back when this is done. The setup process is almost done by using the ignition file. One thing to mention while this is happening, that ignition file can be used not only to set up the users. You can use ignition file to set up what kind of packages gets pre-installed during ignition process. If you want to use SSH keys instead of just a plain password, you can use ignition file as well. The documentation about how to set up ignition file with all kinds of extra features, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can go and dive deeper into this ignition file setup process. I just use bare minimum just to get myself a user created that I can log in via SSH. And here we go. I have a successful message installing ignition config, and success. Flatcar Container Linux stable 4230.2.1 is installed inside dev SDA directory. To run this system, that's all I need to do is just write sudo restart reboot, and system gets rebooted. And while this is happening, if I go to Flatcar VM under options, I will double click on the boot order just to double check if the drive is at the first position. That means that the hard drive will be used to boot into the system and not ISO file. Back into a console. Let's see what's happening behind the scenes if the system is booting, and yes it is. So Flatcar OS is right now booting from the drive. So let's give a second or so for this to finish. And here we are inside the Flatcar OS. To log in, I'm just going to write user core and the password I chose. And everything is correct. I'm logged in. And right now, pretty much that's it. Flatcar OS is running. First thing, I need to double check if the IP address or what IP address it is. So it's 143. So I can use right now SSH client, SSH program to log in into the system. As I already know the IP address of the system, I can successfully connect to it via SSH client. So I'm just going to type SSH core and 192.168. I think it was 45. I already forgot. Let me double check. Where are you? IP-A. So it is 43. I was wrong. So 43. Enter. Asking me about the fingerprint. I'm going to say yes. What password? I'm just going to enter the password. And here we are. I am successfully connected by SSH into that system. So right now I can go and start setting up my, let's say, Portainer instance. First thing, I will go and copy the command to run the Portainer. I will copy that. And in here, I will first of all check the location of where I am. I'm in home core. Make directory, Portainer, change directory to Portainer. Inside here, I will go and create the file. Let's say vim run-portainer.sh, for example. Enter. Press I to go into insert mode. Shift Control V to paste the command, like that. So that is in. Press escape. Shift : right quit ! Enter. And now if I type bash run this command, it will go and run the command inside that file, which is instructions for Docker to go and start setting up the Portainer for me. Why I'm installing Portainer? Portainer will allow me to use the YAML files for containers. So Docker compose YAML files. But because I haven't used the ignition file to initialize and install Docker Compose alongside Docker, that Portainer is going to be very useful, because Portainer under the hood behind the scenes will convert the YAML file into just one line Docker container command, and it will be able to run stuff. So now let's check IP address again, because I keep forgetting it. It is 143, I do believe. Yes, it is. And now if I open the browser and type 192.168.178.143, 9000. Oh, no, it's no longer 9000 because Portainer done an update. I need to run under like this, HTTPS, and then give not 9000, but give 9443. Click advance. Yes, I would like to proceed. And here we are inside the Portainer dashboard. I will provide the password for this. So let's say I'll do again the very simple password. It's asking me to do 12 characters. I forgot about it. So let's make it to be at 12 characters. That's it. And I'm going to say create the user. So I will say start, and that's it. I do have Portainer running inside the Flatcar OS. To test if everything is working, I will run a very simple container stack, very simple Docker Compose file. So I will click on inside the local. Oh, by the way, one thing I need to change is under environments, click on the local, and I need to enter public IP address. It's going to be useful because if I'll try to access the containers from the port number that's showing in the list, I'll show in a second, it will try to use 0000 instead of IP address. So back to home, local, stack, create a new stack, and I will name this nginx. We'll copy the Docker Compose file, paste that in. So we're going to use the simple nginx container just to test this. Everything looks okay. I will scroll down all the way to the deploy the stack, press the button, and wait for Docker and Portainer do the magic. Here we go. I have a stack deployed. So right now I'm going to click on nginx, click on this port, and as you can see, welcome to nginx, and it's running inside the Portainer, which is basically hosted inside the Flatcar demo VM. So as it is a mutable system, to run any kind of packages inside the system, inside this Flatcar OS, you need to use Docker. So for example, I want to run btop to see telemetrics of a system. To do that, I need to use a Docker Compose file or run via Docker container. To do that, I will go into a Portainer, create a new stack, and I will name this btop. And in here, I will paste the Docker Compose instructions, which will run a Docker container with the image Alpine, and it will go and run the btop in there under port 7681. So we'll scroll all the way down and press deploy the stack. Wait for container to run. I will click on the btop. I can see this is running, and now if I click on this port, I do have a btop running inside Flatcar OS, which goes and checks and everything what's happening in the system. I can't install that into the system just by going into, let's say, SSH and write apt install btop, because like I said, there is no package manager. So all the packages, all the stuff that you want to run inside the system, you need to run via Docker container. And this is how you install and use Flatcar Container Linux OS inside your Proxmox system. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. All the documentation, everything you need to know about the system, you will find the links in the description below, just below the like button. By the way, like button is very close to a subscribe button. If you haven't clicked that already, I would really appreciate if you click subscribe. Anyway, enough yapping. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.